Hello everyone, I hope everyone can see me and hear me okay. I am back for another IG Live. I'm super sporadic with these guys. Between seeing you guys in the office, creating the post-op course, things have been crazy around here. It is also surgery season. So first of all, today we're going to talk about what the price of surgery should actually be. So there's a lot of debate on this, and we're going to go into it. But I've been working really hard on the course for you guys, and that's exciting. It's coming along very, very well. If there are topics that you guys want me to cover in that course, as far as like, other than the things that we talk about, like diet and garments and the usual stuff, any other questions that you guys have, definitely DM them to me so that I can start like including those little things in there. So, surgery, cost of surgery. What is it? How much should it cost? Blah, blah, blah. Well, some doctors do it per body part, and some of them do it with per body part at a standard fee. So I know like Lexington Plastic Surgery will do all tummy tucks, all BBLs, all lipo, and it'll all be one standard price, which is usually $1,500 or $15,000, depending on how big or small the area. It's a very wide range. So it's really hard to say how much your surgery should cost, but it's mostly based on what you're looking to get done. So let's start with doing it in New Jersey, because that's where we're at, right? So like I said, some doctors will have set like prices for body parts. So lipo could be anywhere from $3,000 to $6,000 if you're just doing your stomach, or if you're doing 360, it might be $6,000 to $8,000. If you're doing something like a tummy tuck, it may be anywhere from like 5 to 10, depending on if you're doing a mini or like a full tummy tuck hip to hip with lipo sculpting on the flanks. There's a lot of different things. So I can't give you exact prices. I am not a surgeon. I don't work out of a practice. Every practice has their own pricing. It is definitely a good thing to shop around. Absolutely. First of all, every doctor is going to do things differently. Every surgery center is going to do things differently. The anesthesia costs are going to be different. The surgery actual operating room costs are going to be different if they have their own practice or if they're working out of an actual hospital surgery center. It totally depends on the doctor and the place that you're going to. So outside of your actual surgery costs, usually the anesthesiologist fee as well as the surgery center fees are kind of standard. They're kind of the same. They can be anywhere from like $1,000 to $3,000. Sometimes less, sometimes more. Sometimes that includes your medications after, the Valium, the Oxys, the Perks, the antibiotics. Sometimes that includes, other medications that you may need depending on your health concerns. So that fee is going to be kind of standard everywhere that you go to in the States. In the States, meaning not Miami, not DR, not Colombia, not any of the crazy places that you guys go to get surgery because you think it's cheaper. So the surgery cost itself is one thing. The anesthesia cost and the surgery center cost is another thing. So those are those two major costs. Everything after that is aftercare, lodgings, people to help you out, nurses, garments, supplies, all of your other stuff, which we'll get to in a minute as well. So talking about just the surgery cost, yes, you can go to someone who's going to, now, before I say this, if you know you have a lot that you need to get lipoed, anywhere from like 4 to 5 liters is kind of the max that most doctors will do. Some will do 5 to 7 liters if they're in Miami or Colombia or DR, Puerto Rico, the outside places. But usually 4 to 5 liters is the safe amount to take out with lipo. With a tummy tuck, if you're doing just a tummy tuck versus a tummy tuck and an ab repair, that's something different. So the reason I say this is because some doctors will go based on how many liters they need to take out of you or how big the area is, and they'll charge based on that plus whatever the area is. So let's say that it's, a standard $3,000 to $5,000 for 360 lipo. 360 lipo just means front, back, and sides, 360 around your body. And that's maybe including your upper back and your lower back. So that's the whole thing, 360 around you. Let's say it's 3 to 5. Then they'll say, okay, it's going to be $4,500 because you only have this much that we're taking out. Now, if you're adding a BBL to it, regular BBL cost may be like another $2,000 on top of that. With that $2,000, it may be a little more, a little less, depending on how much work they have to do. So the prices are a very meticulous thing from doctor to doctor, and it's really based on you. So when you're picking a doctor, and we have videos about this, picking a doctor, we have videos on lipos and BBLs and tummy tucks separately to talk about what that actually is. But when you're picking a doctor, definitely look at price as a factor, because if you know you have a lot more, you might want to go with someone who has a set standard of pricing, so that way you're kind of covered in a sense, and you're not paying like a lot more. If you just need a little bit of sculpting, then you might want to go with someone who only charges per area rather than a flat rate. Because they also, something doctors will do is by the hour. So sometimes a lipo procedure can take 2 to 3 hours, depending on if you just need to sculpt and shave off some extra, or if you're really doing a lot of contouring, which is where you need a lot more shape and you're taking out a lot more, it's going to be a longer procedure. And then if you're adding a BBL, and then if you're doing a tummy tuck, so, or if you're doing a breast aug or something like that, it's going to be a little bit different with each doctor. So start with whose results you like the most, and then go by pricing and see how their scales work, their pricing scales, and then figure out where to go from there. So that's a little bit about the pricing for the doctors. So like I said, usually lipo can be anywhere from like 3 to 5. Now, I'm not talking about SonoBello or Elite or the places that do like air sculpt or tri sculpt where it's less invasive or non-invasive. Guys, lipo is invasive. You're going into the body, you're taking out fat. It's invasive. They'll put you either under local or general, or put you in that like twilight phase where you're like half awake, half asleep. It's still a procedure, it's still surgery, it's still going to be somewhat invasive. So even SonoBello and Elite, and they're wonderful if you just need a little bit of sculpting, but even SonoBello and Elite, they have different pricing compared to the pricing that I'm talking about, which is the actual surgeons doing the actual surgery that's not out of like a turnaround center like that, where it's just a little bit of sculpting, put you on a machine, call it a day. So with actual surgeons, they'll do a consult and actually price you out that way. And then they'll talk about if you want to like add chin lipo or arm lipo and do a bunch of add-ons. That's how that works. So when you're looking at these doctors that are in your state or in our state, it's very different from every office. Every office has a totally different way of doing things. Every doctor. Now, when you're talking about lipo, there is tri-sculpt, which like we said, tri-sculpt and air sculpt are the ones that are like the non-invasive ones that are like less of like a scary, like I'm gonna actually do surgery type of thing. Again, still surgery, just not as kind of rough with the cannula. But then you have Vaser lipo, you've got smart lipo, you've got safe lipo. Again, I have a video on all of those, but those procedures are going to be marked up and priced a little differently because of the machine that they're using and the amount of work that it takes, the amount of skill that it takes. So those, just because it's lipo doesn't mean it's all gonna be the same price as everything everywhere, because different kinds of lipo, different machines, different techniques, different doctors, it's all going to be different. So yeah, totally shop around. I mean, see what's in your price range, but do not go for the cheap stuff. So let's get into the cheap stuff. Miami. We go there because it's cheaper, right? Something that would cost $5,000 here costs $3,000 there. Why? Because they're doing traditional lipo, and it's a rough cannula, which it's not power assisted. Well, I mean, it is power assisted, but it's not like Vaser or Smart where they're using other things like ultraviolet lights or anything like ultrasound, things like that. They're not using any of that fancy stuff that helps you heal faster. They're just doing regular rough lipo where they're going in there and cutting away at the fat and sucking it out, and that's it. So power assisted lipo is basically just meaning that the cannula helps suck the fat out as the little teeth on the end of the cannula cut you up. That's all that means. And that's like traditional lipo. That's your Miami stuff that's cheaper. So when you're talking about going there, yes, it's cheaper, but it's a lot harder of a recovery. You're going to spend more on massages. You're going to spend more on the flight. You're going to spend more on, God forbid, you go to a recovery house, have to spend the $4,000 to $5,000, and it's not like, it's not what they said it was. And we have videos on that as well, but recovery houses are sometimes not always what they seem. So you're spending more money on that, and I know people who'll stay like 2 days out of their 5 days in a recovery house, and it's kind of a wasted thing, and then you have to change your flight, and it's a lot more money in the long run. But there's nothing wrong with going to Miami. If you have a doctor you love out in Miami and you know they do great work and the price is right for you, definitely do it. Just know that you need to put away extra for when you fly back and come home to get actual lymphatic drainage done, to get your second stage garment, to do all these things that you need to do, because you're not going to be able to do it there, as well as transport and time off of work and all these things. So be very careful when you're weighing the costs, because it may be, again, that the surgery is cheaper, but you're going to spend more doing all these other things. And if you have to get a revision, God forbid, things like that. So just make sure you're really, really actually pricing these things out properly, because a lot of times just being in the state that you're in and finding a doctor who has similar results to the one that you like out in Miami is a little bit better and more cost effective than going to Miami itself. And it's a lot lot less on your body. Like, it's a lot less exhausting for you guys. You don't have to travel as much. You can just stay home and rest. You don't have to take as much time off of work. It's a lot different doing that versus staying here and getting the proper help and investing in what you need to. So there's that whole part of it, the Miami part of it. And again, it's not a bad thing to go to Miami at all. It's not a bad thing to, you know, have all of these doctors out there that you love and have a support system and team out there that you love. There's nothing wrong with that. You just have to be very careful with the cost, because what may seem like it's better, it may not always be better. So sometimes it's better to just find someone here. So aftercare costs, that's another thing. How much should you spend on massages? Well, a good massage therapist that is actually post-op certified is not going to be anything less than $100 a session if they're actually trained. We charge $130 for our sessions. To see me, the specialist, it's $160. And then you pay for your garment, which we have, and our garments are no more than $85. We have a whole thing on garments. People that charge that Miami markup price of $250 for a custom faja with, you know, seams that fit your body. Girl, you're going to shrink out of it in like a week, and then your custom faja is gonna go nowhere because it's not gonna fit you properly anymore. So I don't believe in that, again, because if they're measuring you before surgery for that custom faja, you're not gonna have the same proportions. But again, another thing to think about when we're looking into the cost of recovery is what makes sense. Guys, it should make sense. Surgery costs should make sense. The cost of stay and the cost of aftercare and your massages should make sense. The cost of your faja and your supplies should make sense. All of this stuff should be clear. And if it's not, and if your doctor's kind of wishy-washy about it, I would be very wary of that, because there are too many stories and too many things have happened with tons of clients where they'll pay and then they'll get the surgery and then they're just like, bye, that's it. Like, you got what you paid for, you're done. And you're like, we said we were going to lipo all these parts and it didn't get done. So about that, if you are taking out a lot from the body, the doctor may physically not be able to do any more because of the health reasons. So that's also something to make sure you're talking about with your doctor. Because again, the day of with add-ons, if you go in and they're like, oh, okay, let's do chin lipo with this too, and then they get there and they're like, can't really do that because you've already taken too much out of your body, you've been under for so long that we don't want to put your health at risk, that's something to be super wary of. So just when you're planning, I always suggest if you need to do something else after your surgery, do it after. Pay the extra anesthesia costs, pay the extra stay, pay the extra surgery costs for the center. I would rather you do that than have a harder time recovering. And you're gonna have to pay for more lymphatic drainage sessions, more garments, it's more time off of work. So again, weighing these things out, in the long run, the costs are a little bit heavier than just the one surgery cost. So when you're going into these things, make sure you're taking all of that into account. Again, recovery costs, you should be with lipo. It's 8 sessions with proper hands-on MLD, not rollers, not machines, not anything like that. Go watch our videos. Proper actual hands-on lymph drainage. It's usually 8 to 10 sessions. For a tummy tuck, you have a lot more internal swelling. It's anywhere from 8 to 12 sessions, and then maybe a little bit more if you still have some deep pockets of fluid, if you had like an ab repair, like internal ab repair for distension. Even if you have just like a really long tummy tuck scar, sometimes it may take a little bit more. If you're on medications, if you have thyroid issues, if you've got prior health issues, if you have high blood pressure medications, things like that will affect your swelling. So then your cost of recovery may be a little bit more. So how much should you really save up for recovery? I would say about $2,000 just to cover everything. So with us, our highest package is $1,300. That's 12 sessions. That's it. Then you may need like another 2 or 3, and then cost of garments. So garment, wound care, if you're adding in the cost of groceries, if we're really going all out here, I'd say about $2,000. $3,000 is like excessive. But definitely about $2,000 for your massages and your recovery products and all your garments and everything like that. So your surgery can be, if you're doing BBL lipo tummy tuck, as much as $15,000, and then your recovery can be another $2,000. So that's like a really, really big amount. Now with BBL, we don't ever touch the BBL in a massage session. If anybody ever touches your fat transfer, any fat transfer ever anywhere, run. Because that stuff needs to stick into your body, and if you're touching it or moving around on it or laying on it or pressing on it, that's going to cause the fat to die, that's going to cause things to move, and you're not going to get the results you want. So when we're talking about BBL, that's kind of like, well, what did you do? If you have a fat transfer, you had to have lipo to get that taken out of you to be put somewhere else. So we always say our base is 8 sessions, and our 8 sessions are $950, and then our 12 sessions are $1,300. So it depends on where you're going. It depends on the kind of care that you want. Depends on the kind of care that you can get. Depends on the kind of care that you can afford. But guys, saving up for aftercare is way more important than saving up for your surgery, because without the aftercare, you're not going anywhere with your results, and you're going to be in that faja for 6 to 8 months, if not longer. And you're going to have fibrosis problems, you're going to have swelling problems, you're going to have scarring, all kinds of stuff. You want to heal as seamlessly as possible. It's like getting a tattoo. I say it all the time. It's like getting a tattoo. You can pay $600 and get a beautiful back piece tattoo, but if you're not putting ointment on it, you're not taking care of it, and you're not letting it heal properly, those lines can become scars and become very, very thick and not good. So we want to make sure that we really are making time and saving money for the aftercare. That is the biggest part of surgery, is the aftercare. I know you guys see it on all the boards. You hear it everywhere. You hear it in all the groups. And I'm telling you once again, aftercare is the most important thing to save up for. So about $2,000, maybe $3,000 if you're like really, really, really trying to have like extra coverage and make sure you're good to go. And then your surgery costs. So again, chin lipo, arm lipo, those areas are very small. They're usually a lot cheaper. A BBL with just shaping instead of actual volume and actual sculpting may be a lot less than putting in a lot of fat. So definitely shop around, see what other girls have had done, see what other people have had done, and where they've had them done. Here's the problem with that, though. There's a little thing. Everybody's body is different. What can be $3,000 of a BBL for someone is maybe $1,500 for someone else. If your frame is smaller, and if you're not looking to get as much volume, or maybe you already have volume, maybe you just want to shape. To get you to look like that person in that group that you're talking to that paid $3,000, it may not cost as much because you already have a good amount in there and you just need to shape. So a lot of times, a lot of people will come in to our office and be like, oh, well, my surgery was so expensive, and I know other people that got it done, and they got it done with the same doctor, and it was way less. Well, there's a reason for that. It's because they're not you, and your body is shaped differently. Your results are different. The way that it comes out is different. So comparing to other people like that is not good. But comparing the overall price of the surgery, comparing the overall price of how many liters they got taken out, how the anesthesia was, how the surgery place they went to was, all of that stuff, that's okay. You can definitely get advice from that and shop around. But I would definitely look around with different doctors and get different consults done and see what their actual prices are for these things. And talk to them, guys. Really, really, really talk to them. I know you're so excited when you go in there and you really want to get it done and you really want to see what they can do, but actually talk to them and be like, okay, well, is it priced by hour? Is it priced by area? Is it priced by liters? Is it priced by time? Like what, how much are we really looking at? Because same thing with a tattoo. You don't get an exact price when you go into a tattoo shop. You say, okay, I want this big, and I want it here. They say, okay, it's going to be anywhere from $150 to $200 depending on what else we decide to do. Then when you walk in and you're like, oh, you know what? I want to add a splash of color here, and I want to add this little flower here. It's going to raise the price. Or if you're getting something else touched up on top of that, if you're already had a BBL and you're getting lipo put into that fat transfer area for a second time, it may not be as expensive. It may be a cheaper price. It may be totally different than you thought it would be. So ask these questions. These are really important questions to ask when you're going in for the consult itself before you even look at the surgery. I know payment options. A lot of offices offer payment plans, payment options. They do care credit. You can put it on a credit card. Usually you put a deposit down, and then closer to the surgery date, once you do your pre-op and stuff like that, you'll pay the rest, or you can pay it all in full. Sometimes they offer discounts for that. But just be careful when you're comparing prices doctor to doctor, state to state. Because again, in Miami, they can do a lot different things, but you're going to Miami, you're flying, your aftercare costs are going to be higher than your surgery price. And people love the Miami body look. I personally, on some women, love the Miami body look because of the way that they contour. It's very different, and it's very good for certain body frames and body types, depending on what you want. I've seen some wonderful, curvy, beautiful tummy tucks come out of Miami, but even though that tummy tuck was $6,000 instead of $10,000 that it would have been here, they then paid another, let's say $200 for the flight, and then meals while you're out there, and then another $300 for your garment, and then your hotel or your recovery house stay. And then when you get back here, you still got to do 8 sessions with me. So it still comes out to the same 10 grand. It's just how you do it and the look that you want. So it's not better or worse to go somewhere else. It's just different. But just make sure that you're asking these questions to whatever doctor you go to and really being informed about the cost and weighing that out. And like I said, God forbid if you have to get a revision or something because you went to a cheaper place, cheaper is not always better. And when it comes to your aftercare, cheaper is never better. You don't want to go to some Colombian person who's going to charge you $80 an hour and put oil on you and rake through your body with her hands and cut open your incisions and use syringes. Or the worst that I've heard, which is like baffling, is they'll put you on a machine, like a little belt that just vibrates and heats up, and that's it. And they'll charge you $60 an hour for that. What? That does nothing for you. That does nothing. So just be really informed when you guys are going into this and weigh the costs of surgery versus the cost of going somewhere cheaper thinking it's cheaper. Talk to people. Get advice. We have pre-op sessions for that reason. We can help you find a surgeon. You can have a pre-op session with me. I do virtuals, and we can talk about the actual cost of what you need, what areas you'd want to do, what kind of contouring you may want, and then you can go start looking for doctors. So guys, it was amazing to talk to you today. I'm so happy I was able to jump on this live. This will be posted on our IGTV on Friday as usual. It will also be on our YouTube. You can check us out on YouTube. These same videos are on there, and I will see you guys soon. Thank you so much for watching. I hope this helped. Bye guys, have a great day.